Story. Lonely CEO heard, "May we have your leftovers," from twin little girls, then he saw the eyes that broke him. The restaurant was nearly empty that night, its golden lights reflecting off the polished wooden tables. In the far corner, seated alone with his untouched steak and half-finished glass of water, sat Ethan Cole, one of the most successful CEOs in the city. To the world, he was a man who had everything: money, power, luxury cars, a penthouse that touched the sky. But inside, Ethan carried a loneliness so heavy it almost crushed him every night when he returned to his empty home. His wife had passed away years ago, and though he buried himself in work, he had never truly healed. Just as he was about to push his plate away and leave, a timid voice broke through the silence. "Sir, may we have your leftovers?" Ethan turned his head sharply. Standing by his table were two little girls, no older than 7, their hair tangled, their clothes worn thin. They were twins, clutching each other's hands as if letting go meant they would disappear. Their eyes, those big, pleading, innocent eyes, hit Ethan harder than any business deal ever could. They weren't just hungry, they carried a story, a pain, a longing that cut deep. For a moment, Ethan couldn't speak. His chest tightened. He had seen children in need before, but something about these girls broke him in a way he couldn't explain. Maybe it was because he saw his own daughter's eyes in theirs, the daughter he had lost years ago in a tragic accident. He pushed the plate toward them. "Take it," he said softly, his voice trembling. But as they reached for the food, the manager rushed over, frowning. "Sir, these kids shouldn't be bothering our customers. Girls, leave right now or I'll call security." The twins shrank back, fear flashing in their eyes. But Ethan stood, his tall frame commanding attention. "They're with me," he said firmly. "Bring them anything they want. Tonight, they're my guests." The manager froze, then nodded quickly. The twins sat hesitantly, their tiny hands brushing against the fancy tablecloth. Ethan watched as they ate with desperation, yet tried to remain polite. He felt a lump in his throat. When the plates were cleared, he leaned forward. "What are your names?" "I'm Lily," one whispered. "And I'm Lila," the other added, barely audible. "Where are your parents?" Ethan asked gently. The girls exchanged a glance, then looked down. Finally, Lily spoke, her voice breaking. We don't have anyone. Mommy got sick and never woke up. Daddy left long before that. We've been staying under the old bridge." That night, Ethan didn't send them back to the streets. He drove them in his sleek black car, their small faces lit with wonder at the city lights. Instead of taking them to a shelter, he took them to his home. The penthouse that once felt like a prison now echoed with the sound of small footsteps and soft giggles. He gave them warm baths, new clothes, and tucked them into his late daughter's bed, still preserved as it was years ago. For the first time in a long while, Ethan felt the presence of life in his home. But things weren't easy. The twins were traumatized. They would wake up crying, clutching each other, fearing someone would take them away. They hesitated to trust, always thinking love would be temporary. Ethan struggled too, his grief for his daughter sometimes made it hard to open up fully. Yet night after night, he stayed by their side, telling them bedtime stories, holding their hands until they fell asleep. Slowly, walls began to break. One day, the girl surprised him with a drawing. It was a picture of 3 people, 2 little girls and a man holding their hands. At the top, in shaky letters, they had written, "Our Daddy." Ethan couldn't hold back his tears. That picture became his most valuable possession, worth more than every company he owned. Still, challenges lay ahead. To adopt them, Ethan had to face the legal system, skeptical social workers, and media that twisted his story into a scandal. Why would a billionaire CEO suddenly want to adopt 2 homeless girls? The tabloids mocked. Yet Ethan didn't back down. For once, it wasn't about business deals or reputation. It was about family, about healing. He fought with every resource he had, not to prove his worth to the world, but to prove to Lily and Lila that they were wanted, loved, and safe. Months later, inside a quiet courtroom, the judge smiled gently and signed the papers. The girls were officially Ethan's daughters. The moment they ran into his arms, screaming, "Daddy," with pure joy, Ethan realized he wasn't lonely anymore. Years passed. Under Ethan's care, Lily and Lila grew strong, confident, and full of dreams. They excelled in school, joined sports, painted, and laughed loudly in the home that was once too silent. They healed him as much as he healed them. Ethan often looked back on that night in the restaurant. A simple question, "May we have your leftovers?" had changed everything. It reminded him that wealth isn't about the money in your account, but about the love you can give and the lives you can change. In the end, Ethan gave the twins more than food, clothes, and shelter. He gave them a future. But perhaps, what they gave him was far greater. They gave him a reason to live again. And so, the lonely CEO was lonely no more. Backhand index pointing right message for viewers. Sometimes the smallest voices carry the biggest truths. Sometimes the people who have nothing can give us everything we didn't know we were missing. Love, compassion, and kindness can turn strangers into family and pain into healing. Never underestimate the power of one small act of kindness. It might just change a life, including your own.